Hey guys, this is OddOneGaming. This is going to be another Dragonheir SilentGods video. In today's video, we're gonna tackle the last one of the chief challenges, because I did a video pretty much on every single one yet, looking at the bosses kit, what would be the good teams, what would be the suggestions and all that. So today we're gonna be talking about the Aschetius chief challenge, where you will have to use people that do lightning damage to try and do your best damage possible. So for this one, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. You're either going to be using Dauntless people, which are the most, I guess, the easiest ones to get you some good damage, or you can use Thunderbolt. But for Thunderbolt, you're going to want to have, honestly, I'm not sure Thunderbolt is strong enough unless you have Perkunte with Orfena, or at least Perkunte, right? So we're going to look at the boss's kit, and I'm not going to lie, I made a video on all of them so far, and I said that the Sheena one is the easiest. Well, at least when it comes to survivability, the damage depends on what you have, but this one is actually the easiest one to survive, right? As long as you do the right skills at the right time and with the right rotation, this one is extremely easy to survive. You just need some specific champs, and because he's a melee unit, it's pretty easy to tank it. Just have Ivellios in there, and that's about it. But let's look at the boss's skill, the boss's kit, and then I'm going to show you the team that I put together. That's a pretty basics, or mostly relatable team that most people should be able to do. Now, if you look at the info, so start with the passive. Basic attacks deal additional fire damage to enemies in 3 adjacent tiles in front of the hero. In addition, basic attacks have a 50% chance of inflicting 1 stack of burn. So the boss is pretty much all about burns, kind of the same as the boss itself is. Then when we look at the battle skill, deals fire damage to enemies within range and inflicts 2 stacks of burns for 10 seconds. So you see, this is the range around the boss. So if, for example, if you only have one melee unit, you're just gonna have that melee unit be hit with the battle skill, and that's gonna be your tank. He should be able to survive. So I'm gonna say it from now, having melee units might be a bit trickier, especially if you have somebody like a Shelter, because he could get killed pretty easily, or at least towards the end of the fight he's going to die, unless you manage to build him really tanky or have some sort of like a cleanser healer that manages to keep him alive. But yeah, the boss does this 2 times, and then on the ultimate, he does the full bore hit, dispels all enemy burns, so all the burns you have on yourself will be taken out, deals fire damage to them, then blasts on all enemies with each enemy as the center, dealing additional fire damage to surrounding enemies. For each stack of burn previously dispelled from the enemy, the damage dealt is increased by 10%. So again, if you're not gonna have more than one melee unit, this is going to be pretty easy, as the damage boost will only be from that melee unit, which is going to be, again, Ivellios or whoever's going to be your tank. But from my point of view, Ivellios is the best option in here, and it should be pretty easy, pretty straightforward to survive. Now let me show you the team exactly that I used. And like I mentioned, it's going to be Ivellios. Then I have Yola as my Witch's Remains plus Serial Whisper. I'm going to look at the builds at the end, but Yola's in there for the attack penalty and Witch's Remains. Then Ivellios is kind of like my Dauntless enabler. If you don't have Ivellios, then I guess Shelter is your next best bet. But again, keep in mind, keeping Shelter alive is going to be trickier, as when there's like 1 minute left, he's going to die. And then my other enablers, sort of like for Ivellios, because Ivellios is all about his passive. Every time an ally deals an attack, he has a chance to proc this passive that can do some crazy damage. Then I have Nimbus as one of the DPS, and then I have Yagnats as well as one of the DPS. Now let's run this and let's see how it goes. And again, this one's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to deal with, right? I'm going to show you a couple of presets that I use and all that, but as long as you have the right timings, and I guess the right skill haste for somebody like Yola, you should be pretty easily surviving this, right? Again, keep in mind that apart from Ivellios, that's one of the legendaries, it's 3 epics and a rare that I use in this team, and the damage looks pretty good. It's not going to be damage numbers that you see with exclusive teams, right? It's not going to be the same damage that you would do with, for example, a Rogue team against the other boss, or like an Azul team, or even the Perkunte one. But for example, I'm going to show you, let me see if I have a picture. I have somebody over here while this fight is over. This is, as an example, the damage that somebody did with, like I said, Orfena plus Perkunte, which I don't think they're inspired, right? They're just 1 level. And this, you can see the damage that we did, 168 million. This is what somebody did. So it's pretty good damage, right? It's pretty good damage considering that you don't need that strong survivability or whatever. Same thing you see over here, just Ivellios as a tank. and that's about it. And you can do some solid damage. But when we're talking about something like this, you see that I pretty easily did 72 million, right? It's not that hard to do a lot over that 20 million, but obviously the more damage you're gonna do, the higher damage will be dealt if you have more, like maybe of the affinity bonuses. Like I think I actually have all of it maxed when it comes to damage, or did I? Let me double check, because I might be wrong, or I might actually be wrong, but I think I maxed out all the damage. Okay, yeah, so I maxed out all the damage from here and from here, so the next best damage is going to be dealt if you have better Dauntless people, okay? If you want to go with Dauntless. So if we look as an example, let's see over here, let's select, can I just put Dauntless? Yes, I can. So obviously if you have somebody like a Tarval, he's insane, he's going to be really good. Nashchenka, Garrett, and Susa could be good, but again, the tricky thing with them is the fact that they're melee, so they might take a lot more damage from the boss, and you might be dying. That's why the best option from my point of view is going to be if you have Ivellios with Tarval and maybe with somebody like a Nimbus. I have not played around with Nashchenka a lot. I know she can do some crazy damage, so if she can survive, she could be a good option. If not, just go with ranged again, like I said. Ivellios, Tarval, and then Nimbus are going to be your next best bets. If not, Yagnats is really good. The reason why he's so good is because he has a low recharge time on the ultimate and he does some decent damage. Now let me show you the preset that I have on this team, and then I'm gonna quickly show you the builds to see that it's not as crazy. So the way that I have it is pretty much Yola always goes first. Try to get Yola to be at around the 18-second mark, because whoever's gonna be your attack penalty. If you're gonna try with Rose, keep in mind the Rose brings recharging speed penalty on the battle skill, and that might throw off your rotation. So that's why I believe just straight up Yola to be the better option. Unless you can find the right timings with Rose, and then maybe you give Rose a different artifact. You might give Rose the Horn and then somebody else in Witch's Remains. If not, just go the easy route. Yola close to the 18-second, because you want to have attack penalty when the boss does the ultimate. If you don't, your squishy ranged tanks might be killed, because that's the only time when the boss does an AoE hit. So you see that I have just going whenever. It's pretty much she does at 11 first, and then every 18.1 seconds she's going to do her ultimate, land the Witch's Remains, and then the attack penalty. And then the only other one that I put a different rotation on is Yagnats. Because he has 16 seconds, I made him go after Yola, and then every 18.2, maybe I can put 18.1 seconds, making sure that he always goes after Yola does the defense penalty, because we're gonna have those gear sets that give us more damage when that happens. Then everybody else is full YOLO. Now let's look at the builds quickly. I have Garrus, obviously the easy route with him, Gatekeeper Staff, defense percent on the Melissa's Blessing, then as much defense as you can get on him on the runes, and then as much defense as you can get on him in Ancestral Protection. Okay, you want to get him in Ancestral Protection, so he soaks up some of the damage from the ultimate hit, and he takes less damage himself every time the boss does the hits on him, which are going to be most of the fight. Then the next one, like I said, Yola, she's in Witch's Remains. I tried to give her some damage, and you want around 55 to 60 skill haste so that she has that ultimate on the 18-second recharge time. So Witch's Remains plus the Cyril's Whisper, so obviously we're going to have that increased attack up whenever she does her ultimate. So I put some crit damage skill haste over here, accuracy with skill haste over here. Then I also gave her like a crit damage glove, so she does a little bit of damage as well. She's not going to be your top damage dealer, but she's going to count, right? She's going to bring some damage in there. Then when we're talking about Ivellios, I gave him the Harpy's Nail because that's all I have. However, if you do have the legendary artifact, Queen's Fan is going to be the best one for him because he's going to do a ton more damage with this one, as he's going to be really far away from the boss. So this is the ideal one for Ivellios in this specific fight. Then Enlightenment with attack with as much Enlightenment as I could get, Enlightenment on the chest, attack bonus on the Strike the Unprepared with Enlightenment, and then again, as much Enlightenment and attack percent as I can get, because that's what you want to focus on. Ivellios' most damage comes from his passive, that is derivative damage, that scales mostly off of Enlightenment, okay? As much Enlightenment, and then as much attack as you can get. That's why you see me building him without crit rate and crit damage, okay? He can do some damage, but it's nowhere near as good as actually having him rely mostly on the passive. Then when we're talking about Nimbus, I run Nimbus with the Poison of Swamp. Maybe I need to give Nimbus a little bit more what's it called? I need to give him a bit more crit rate because this one benefits more if you have somebody who does healing over time, which I don't have. I only have Garrus in this fight, so he's only gonna get 10% crit rate and 15% crit damage every time Garrus does the ult. So pretty much because Garrus is like 18 seconds, you're only gonna have this stack once, okay? If you feel like this is not the best option, I've not tested a lot more, you can always try to go with Aschetius' roots, or you can try and give him the other attack speed artifact. That's let me see, the epic one. Let me go over here. You can try and give him Wine of Dragon Blood, because again, he's gonna do some good damage, but most of the damage should come from focusing Ivellios' passive. And then when it comes to the set, you 100% want Echo of War, as much attack speed as possible, so he keeps hitting the boss, dealing his own damage, and again, boosting that Ivellios. Then you see crit rate over here, crit damage, attack, and then as much crit rate, crit damage as I could get, and with some attack percent. And then Yagnats, he's the one that actually is wearing the Chest of Radiance, if you do have it, so we have get more attack percent defense bonus, because we have the 5-man synergy. If you do not have this, then you can try and go with, like I said, either this artifact or even Aschetius' roots, because it's gonna be really, really good. And same principle, Echo of War to give us a ton of attack speed with this one, and then you can see his stats, not the best, but you know, it works pretty well. I guess, you know what, let's just do this round like this, just for the sake of testing. I want to see if, without the Chest of Radiance, because that one does give us some attack and does give us some defense, but I don't think the survivability is an issue in this fight, because like I said, Garrus is mostly the one that takes the damage, and I think everybody else should survive, so maybe you don't need a Chest of Radiance, maybe you just need to give Yagnat as much attack speed or as much damage to Yagnat as possible, so you can keep boosting Ivellios' damage, and you can keep boosting his own personal damage. So I guess we're gonna see at the end of this if it's better to just give something else, like I said, to Yagnats instead of Chest of Radiance or not. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about this team? What do you think about this boss, right? Because from my point of view, it looks like with Garrus in there, this boss is 100% the easiest one to survive against. Having the attack penalty be there before boss does the ult means everybody's gonna survive. Having Garrus as the tank means he's gonna soak up a ton of that damage and be able to, you know, survive the boss hits, and then we're good to go. But yeah, you see I did like 5 million less damage without having the Chest of Radiance on, so it might be better to just have the Chest of Radiance on Yagnats, as he's one of the lower damage dealers. But anyway, we're gonna leave it at this for today, guys. As always, if you do enjoy my content, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel to see when I upload next, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Peace, love, take care, everyone. Bye, guys.